inshallah.
I'll start with dua, inshallah. So everyone wants to join me, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. نوينا التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, all praise is due to God, Lord of the worlds, and peace and blessings be upon our Master Muhammad and his noble family, companions, and followers. We intend to learn and to teach, to remind and be reminded, to benefit and be benefited, to improve and be improved, and to encourage holding fast to the book of God and the way of his messenger, and to call unto guidance and to direct towards good, hoping for the countenance of God and his pleasure and his proximity and his reward. And peace and blessings be upon our Master Muhammad and his noble family, companions, and followers. Ameen. So inshallah today, one of the themes that I wanted us to reflect on together as it relates to Surat al-Kahf, and it's a running theme that we can find in the stories of Surat al-Kahf, is actually, the calling us to focus and to be present with God and our purpose, and to be aware of the distractions. And so I want to say, if you wanted to put a title to the reflection session for today, and almost a title maybe for the entire session, is about avoiding the distractions, and how the distractions will always be there. And they will be there, especially when the endeavor or the purpose or the cause is a great cause. There's going to be even more distractions. And this is something that we can see in Surat al-Kahf. So if we can open the surah to verse 7. If Celebrate Mercy can put verse 7 onto the screen for everyone. And if that is something that we cannot, alhamdulillah, thank you so much. Barakallahu fikum. So even, if we were to look at the verses and look at every story in the surah, I would encourage us to reflect on what the distraction is and what the answer is, and who is behaving or who is responding truly to their purpose and who is responding to the distraction. And one of the things that I feel is a big anchor for this surah is it keeps bringing us back to our purpose. It keeps bringing us back to examples of those who followed their purpose. And so when we look at verse 7, we have, just for the sake of time, I'm going to read the English, the Arabic is there for us. We have indeed made whatever is on earth as an adornment for it, in order to test which of them is best in deeds. If we can go to the next verse. And we will certainly reduce whatever is on it to barren ground. So this verse that happens early in the surah, everything on this earth, all of it, all of creation, can be a distraction for us. It is something that is attractive. It is something that calls our focus. It is something that can, sort of deceive us about our lives, about the purpose of our lives. And yet, how does it end? At the end, all of it, everything will be reduced. Everything will become dust. It will be reduced to barren ground. And so, if we want to look back at the last slide, it talks about which of them are best in deeds, right? إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Like, this is kind of like a thesis statement about the surah. If all of the things that we face in this life, every breath that we take, there is a test. And that test is which of us are going to respond to whatever it is with the best of deeds, and which of us will be the best in deeds. And so after this, the different stories in Surat al-Kahf show examples for us of those who are tested right? Like this is the nature of this world. It's going to have attractions, it's going to have distractions, but which of us are best in deeds? And the very first story that comes up after this is the story of the people of the cave. And if we go to verses 13 through 16, they are truly one of the most remarkable examples that I think we can benefit from in terms of how do we avoid the distractions. They provide for us a story of those that were very heroic, and they weren't elderly. They were, people who had lived their lives and then looked back and at the world and said, you know what, this was actually important. No, they're actually young people. They're young men. And so if we look at verses 13, the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we relate to you, O Prophet, their story. In truth, they were youths who truly believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance. If we want to go to the next verse. And we strengthened their hearts when they stood up and declared, our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. We will never call upon any God besides him. I want to continue. Or we would truly be uttering an outrageous lie. We'll read the whole section, yes. Then they said to one another, these people of ours have taken gods besides him. Why do they not produce a clear proof of them? Who then does more wrong than those who fabricate lies against Allah? Since you have distanced yourselves from them and what they worship besides Allah, take refuge in the cave. Your Lord will extend his mercy to you and accommodate you in your ordeal. So a number of points here, inshallah, as we reflect on the companions of the cave. First of all, they're young. They're young men, and Allah has given them guidance, and he's increased them in guidance. The second point to take is that Allah has enabled them to have strength in their hearts. Now, the strength of heart is one of the elements that allows us to avoid distractions. So spiritual strength, the soundness of our hearts is something that allows us to see through the distractions. And I think it's also very beautiful that in the verse, it doesn't simply say that these companions of the cave, they said. It says they stood up and said. So when someone stands up to say something, they're declaring their faith, and they're standing up in the middle of those who have been distracted and have been deceived. They're standing up with faith in the middle of a society that has actually fallen for the life of this world. And so there's a recognition, I think, that we can take in our time, that the people around us may be deceived. Like you might live in a country that is majority not Muslim or not even faithful. They don't believe in God. You may live somewhere where people have been totally and utterly distracted and deceived by the life of this world. And yet the undistracted heart is able to stand up and declare their faith in the middle of that and take refuge from those distractions. Take refuge and say, I am not like that. I am not choosing to live that kind of lifestyle. I recognize all of you have fallen for this. I'm not falling for it. And this is something that's really important for young people in the West, in places where they're, the company around them are not practicing, is for them to know that they have strength of heart. They have the ability to have strength of heart to stand up and to be strong in their faith and to say, I don't care about the peer pressure. I don't care about if the rest of the society is doing X, Y, or Z. I am not falling for it. I will not fall for it. I wasn't created for this. And essentially, that's what the companions of the cave do. And they take refuge in a cave. And essentially, they're there to protect their hearts. They're there to protect their faith. And there's an analogy for us in the cave, is that we also seek to take refuge. And our cave, our safe place, is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we want our hearts to be a safe place that is sort of, again, like that cave. We want our hearts to be a place where the company in our hearts is believing company. The thoughts in our hearts are undistracted. The companions that we have in our hearts, whatever is elements that we have in our hearts, are focusing us and pushing us towards our purpose and away from the distractions. And so I think, again, this is one of the lessons we can take from the first story that's mentioned. Now, if we go to verse 21, in the surah, if we can go to verse 21. I can read it. If it's, I'll just read it, inshallah, just because I know we're short on time. So I'm going to read the English translation. That is, oh, okay. That is how we, yes, that is how we cause them to be discovered, so that their people might know that Allah's promise of resurrection is true and that there is no doubt about the hour. When the people disputed with each other about the case of the youth after their death, some proposed to build a structure around them. Their Lord knows best about them. So if we can go back to the previous slide, this is something that I think is really, again, it calls our attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us why he is mentioning this. Why did he bring about this miracle for the people of that time, as well as it's being mentioned in Quran. So now this miracle is an example for the people of all time afterwards. And it says that is how we caused them to be discovered, so that their people might know that Allah's promise of resurrection is true and that there is no doubt about the hour. So one of the things that we are really distracted of in this world is the Day of Judgment. We are so distracted. We may say, I believe, as one of my pillars of faith, yes, I believe in Allah and I believe in his prophets, I believe in his books, I believe in the hour, I believe in the last day. But we are utterly distracted from the last day. We are utterly distracted as a society from the reality that we will all meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are all going to stand in front of him. We will die and that we will be resurrected. This is something that is such a central point in the Quran. You can almost not turn a page of the Quran without a reminder of al-akhirah and a reminder about the Day of Judgment. It's a very central, obviously it's one of our pillars of faith, but it's very central to the Quran as well, the Quranic message, for us to not be distracted from the hour. The hour is important. And for us, this entire story of the people of the cave is symbolic, right? They saw the miracle. They slept for, some said 300 years, some said less, some said more, and then they're brought back to life, and people see that they're brought back to life. And that gives them this example that we will be brought back to life just as they were. Now, for all of us, again, when it comes to the hour and the distraction from the hour, so many times in my office hours, and in the course of the work that I do in the community, one of the things that I think is a really important point for us is to find ourselves in tribulation and not to lose ourselves in tribulation. And so what is an example of finding yourself in tribulation? So a tribulation comes, and a person, because of that tribulation, they turn more to God in prayer. They call upon him more. They are more connected to him. They believe in him more. And all of that is good. That's a good sign. That's a wonderful sign. If, alhamdulillah, that's happening when people are tested. But there's another level to get to, and that is to become about God and not about the tribulation. To allow the tribulation, first it connects us to him, right? Because we're in a state of being tried. But then it has an opportunity. There's an opportunity in tribulation to transcend even whatever the trial is, and to sort of shift the focus of the heart from the distraction of the tribulation and be about God. Okay, so a person has a tribulation in their family, with their spouse, with their kids, with their wealth, with their career, with whatever it is. Maybe there's whatever that tribulation is, whatever that struggle is, and it's a major tribulation. And in the beginning of that, they find themselves in need, and so they call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're asking for help. All right, like it's a person who's maybe they feel like they're drowning in the ocean, and they're calling for help. And all of a sudden, alhamdulillah, they receive some help, and they're holding on to the life raft. and that's pulling them back to shore. Now, in the middle of that, can they transcend? They realize, okay, I'm not drowning anymore. The lifeboat is here, or the whatever has been thrown into the water for me to be saved. But now I want to be about the one who saved me. I want to be about the one who can hear me. I want to be about the one who my entire life was actually created for. I was not created for my spouse. I was not created for my kids. I was not created for my wealth. I was not created for my career. I was not created for my education. I was not created for anything or anyone except for God. I was not, and I will meet him. And I need to prepare for the day that I meet him. And I want to prepare for that hour. That is the purpose of my life. Is who will be the best indeed? Who will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of the different ways that we seek to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who will be distracted from it? And yes, tribulation can actually be a distraction. If we're so obsessed with getting something in this world, that's all we care about, right? And yes, we're going to ask Allah, oh Allah, I want this in this world. I'm not saying don't make dua. We make dua, but we need to transcend it. Because the attachment to whatever it is in this world should never be stronger than the attachment to God himself. And that switch has to happen in our hearts. And we need to become a people who can overcome these kinds of distractions. Now, because of time, I'm actually going to skip all the way to the end of the surah. Now, if we were to go through all the surahs in Surat al-Kahf, we're going to find a story of people who maybe succumbed to distraction and a story of people who overcame or transcended the distraction. There's the people of the two gardens. One of them was distracted again, and he actually says the words that I did not think the hour would come. All right. And then we move on, and there's a story of Iblis and Adam alayhi salam. Right. And obviously Iblis is the source of the distractions. There's the story also of Musa alayhi salam. And if we can go to verses 60 through 66. Actually, if we can go straight to verse 62 because of time. I will just read it. We will see. I'll start at verse 60. As for Moses, he said to his servant, I will not rest until I reach the place where the two seas meet, even if it takes me years. But when they reached the place where the two seas meet, they had forgotten all about their fish, which made its way into the sea and swam away. They journeyed on, and then Moses said to his servant, give us our morning meal. This means the fish. This journey of ours is very tiring. And the servant said, remember when we were resting by the rock, I forgot the fish. Satan made me forget to pay attention to it, and it must have made its way into the sea. How strange. Moses said, that was the place we were looking for. So the two turned back, retraced their footsteps, and found one of our servants, a man to whom we had granted our mercy, and whom we had given knowledge of our own. So in this story, something really intriguing happens. Musa alayhi salam is traveling with a companion. They are traveling to find Khidr alayhi salam. And they have fish with them. And they are in the moment where they're supposed to actually pay attention to what's going on, the fish escape them and go back into the water somehow. And that place, later on when Musa alayhi salam wants to have the meal, he says, the fish they escaped over there. So Musa alayhi salam realizes the place where the fish escaped is actually the place where they were supposed to meet Khidr alayhi salam. How did they miss it? The words that are said is, Satan made me forget to pay attention to it. So there's a distraction. There's some nisyan, there's some forgetfulness, there's something that's the place where you were going to meet Khidr. Why does it happen right there at the meeting point where Musa alayhi salam is supposed to meet Khidr alayhi salam? Because great good is supposed to come from that. Great good. So what Shaitan, what does he want to do? He wants to distract Musa alayhi salam. He wants to distract his companion, and especially in moments of great good. So when it comes to anything that is good for us in our religion, know that is the point that Shaitan will try to press on the distraction. He'll try to bring them all about, whether it's, and we're going to get to it in the second portion, but it may be when it comes to when we stand in prayer. that's when he's going to press on the distractions. Why? Because that's a place of great spiritual benefit. That's a place that brings us back to the purpose of why we were created. If a person is going to make Hajj or Umrah, watch how many obstacles will happen before they're supposed to leave on that trip to try to make them turn away from that good intention. How many distractions, how many other things will come in the way. A person sets out to study, to memorize Quran, any lofty goal that is attached to the pleasure of God as an act of worship, that is where the distraction will come. And the ones who are best in deeds are the ones who are able to overcome and transcend those distractions and be connected to God above and everything and anyone else. And whatever I said that's beneficial is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever I said that's wrong and mistaken is from myself and shaitan. Thank you all.